What's up guys, my name is David and welcome back to Basically Star Wars and welcome to a very different kind of video. Today I will be having a debate slash conversation about film subjectivity slash objectivity, basically the idea of can a movie be objectively good or bad. I will be having this debate with Ethan from the channel Nerd-O-Holic. If you like nerdy stuff, and if you're watching this, I assume you do, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, stuff like that, you will absolutely like his channel, so go check him out. He will be taking the stance that film can be objective, and as you will see in this video, I do believe that to some extent, but still not to the extent he believes, and we have a pretty interesting conversation. I know it's very long, but if you could just watch a couple minutes just to kind of get a feel for this conversation, that would be much appreciated. Anyways, with that being said, enjoy this very long video.
So, I think that the best way to start this is I know your point of view, but you know it better than I do because, of course, it's yours. So, I do have some counters and some clarity that I think I can provide, but I want you to give your point of view first for the audience, and then I can kind of show you.
Love it. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So right now my general stance is you have got me over to the stance that there can be objectivity in comparisons. Schindler's List is better than High School Musical. And what was the other one? And there can be proven flaws. There can be objective flaws. Like the video you sent me with Thanos not killing the Avengers. He had all the resources to kill the Avengers before the snap. But he didn't, and that can be a proven flaw. What I don't believe is that we can use those proven flaws to label a movie objectively good or bad. Because I feel because let's say you give me 30 flaws for a movie. Half of those flaws could be valid. Another third could be, like up for debate. And then another third could just be like, these are nitpicks, that doesn't bother me. So I feel like there can be proven flaws, but I don't think you can then stretch that to label a movie objectively bad. So, as much as I would love to call The Rise of Skywalker objectively bad, I still can't.
Okay, so how come you can make comparisons such as this movie is definitively better than this movie, but you can't say definitively that mistakes matter?
No, mistakes matter.
Okay, so you think that... Okay, so you think that because... So you think that you can make movies objectively better than other movies, but no movie is objectively bad?
There can be objectively, there is objectivity. You've got me on that stance, but I don't think in just like general debates, because I'm kind of referencing this to the debates that we have, or like people in our circles have, like with Star Wars or Iron Man movies. I don't think you can label an Iron Man movie objectively good or bad. It's just kind of, does it click with that person? Here are my reasons why it does. Here's my reasons why it doesn't.
Okay, so what movies can you label as objectively bad or objectively good?
I do feel like there can be some extremes, but I also feel like someone could, not have some serious problems with Parasite. I might not understand those problems, but they could. But I feel like in the extremes of objectively bad, I haven't seen it, but from what I've heard, The Room seems pretty terrible.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's so bad, it's good. It's so bad
that's
that you can really enjoy it.
I did like The Disaster Artist. Yes, The Disaster Artist. I like that one.
I haven't seen that yet because I wanted to watch The Room first. So.
Okay, but I feel like there can be more comparisons. Like it can be like this movie is better than this movie for these reasons. I feel like we can break it down to science for extreme comparisons. But then when it gets into like the muddle, like I don't think you can label The Dark Knight is definitively better than Batman vs Superman. I can't get on board with that one.
Okay, so.
Extremes.
So you think that you can objectively label the extremities, but when it gets into the middle, you can't.
It gets very muddy, and I feel like then we're just kind of having these word powers. Like, this is objectively bad, this is objectively good. I feel like that just gets really muddled. Like, I will not get on board that Iron Man 3 is objectively bad.
Right. Okay. So let me unpack some of that. So, you're right. The extremities are easy to label as objectively good or bad. Right? But once you get into the middle, it does get harder to say this movie's better than this movie when they're of similar quality. That doesn't mean that you can't find it out. It may be so close that it may be hard to distinguish. It doesn't mean that you can't figure out why. I think one of the things that you're conflating is how much you enjoy a movie and the quality of it. So, for example, actually The Room is a great example. There's a lot of people, The Room will sometimes be in theaters. Like, The Room will come out in movie theaters and people will go watch it. And they'll bring spoons, because there's spoons everywhere in the room for some reason. And they'll throw spoons at the screen whenever a spoon comes on screen. You can't see what my cat's like right here, just off screen, just saying hi. So because a movie is objectively bad, because we can prove the issues with it, doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. You can enjoy bad things, you can enjoy good things, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's either bad or good. Does that make sense?
All right. Can I respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, once again, we're using extremes. Yes, the Room, from what I've heard, is a great example of so bad it's good. But with things like Iron Man 3, there can your enjoyment is based on qualities you see in the film. It is an opinion that the movie has a good plot structure. It is an opinion that Iron Man's character development was good. It is an opinion that the Mandarin twist was a good twist. That's all opinion leading up to enjoyment. So the way you get to I enjoyed that movie comes from your objective categories of that's why I liked it. I liked it because
so
it had
I'm
good
not so
directing.
saying a movie is an objectively bad doesn't mean that everything in the movie is objectively bad. Every movie, no matter how bad it is, has good stuff in it, and every movie, no matter how good it is, there's some flaws in it. Right? Empire Strikes Back, I think, is the only Star Wars movie I would consider a masterpiece. But it has issues. The issues are small, but they're there. Okay? So I spent a minute since I've seen Iron Man 3, so I can't really use that as an example.
We can go to another one, yeah.
Can we do... I just watched Return of the Jedi, so can we do Return of the Jedi?
Sure, that's fresh in my brain.
So there are issues in Return of the Jedi. It is probably the worst in the OT. I would be comfortable saying it is the worst in the OT. The first two are better written than the last one. But that doesn't mean that people can enjoy it a lot more than the other two. So, for example, the opening with Luke, there's a lot of issues with that. When it comes to the Ewoks' abilities to fight the Empire, there's some issues with that. When it comes to the Emperor's plan, there's a minor but major at the same time issue with it, and that is why doesn't he maybe like give the rebels the wrong coordinates to protect
I've heard that one.
Yeah. So there's issues there, but it does some other really good stuff. Like the emotional payoffs in that movie are fantastic, right? Some of the best in cinema, right? The character work in that movie is extremely good as well, and the resolution of plot threads are very good as well, right? So you could make a case for it being an objectively bad film, but it's a weaker case than it being an objectively good film because it does more good than bad. So kind of one of the things that I pointed out earlier in our previous discussion that's not going to be posted. I think I have too much light on me. It's kind of let me do that a little bit. There we go. Is that two people who have who believe in objectivity in media can have two completely different viewpoints, right?
Okay.
So someone who thinks...
I still don't get that, but yeah, go for it.
Right. So someone who thinks that a movie is objectively bad, for example, Iron Man 3, there's someone who could think that movie is objectively bad, and there's some person that could think that Iron Man 3 is objectively good. But they might have different levels of information about the movie, whether it be they missed a scene, authorial intent. That's something that's good to keep in consideration when you're talking about these things, as well as maybe some parallelism between that and the comics and other movies, or maybe the setup that's, for example, there's a very good case that I think Iron Man 3 is bad. That's my take. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I'd have to do more research to give you an argument for why. But I think it's bad. But I also think by watching it, you can enjoy what happens in Age of Ultron even more, and then because you understand what Tony's been through until Age of Ultron, and then by that you can enjoy Civil War more, and then because you understand the complexity of Tony Stark's arc, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So there's good and bad in each movie, but it's about what facts you bring to the table. So for example, let me give you a great example. Actually, I had a recent conversation with. This is an even better example because I can actually get into the nitty gritty about this one.
Okay.
I had a conversation on a Discord server not too long ago. I would say that Attack of the Clones, objectively speaking, is a above average film. Maybe you could even say it's good. But a lot of people have issues with it, and there are issues with it, right? And I'm not denying that. But this guy's issue with the film that he has because he didn't have enough information about it. He didn't pick up on some things. There's some subtle things in the movie that's easy to miss, but they're there. So one of his things was, okay, It doesn't make sense that when Obi-Wan goes to the Jedi Temple to search for... There he is. You see it right there. When he goes to the Jedi Temple to search for Kamino, and the library lady says, "Oh, it just doesn't exist." Oh, well, that doesn't make sense, because she could just refer him to someone else and go look here for that database, right? Just keep in mind, we're two people who believe in the objective viewpoint, but we have totally different takes. Okay, and I said, well, one thing you have to understand is this is the most complete database in the world. If something isn't in this database, then it most likely doesn't exist, right? I gave a whole complex reasoning for why it didn't exist, but that's besides the point. And it's like, well, she still should have referred him to someone else. Like, okay, once more, one of the points of the prequels is the Jedi are hypocritical and are headstrong, and so they think that their records would be the best. They're the most complete, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't know. But the point is that character thinks so. It's like, okay, well, why would anyone trust information from that data source in the first place if stuff can be so easily deleted? So no, stuff cannot be easily deleted from there. Only a Jedi can do it. That's why Count Dooku had to be the one to delete it from the database, because he was a Jedi, so he was the only one who knew the knowledge to do that. It's like, oh, well, don't you think it's weird that they don't think that Count Dooku is the bad guy in the movie, because he is, he's already the head of the Separatist movement, he's left the Jedi, so it's a logical conclusion that he would be the one to do that thing. It's like, okay, but that's not what the characters think. We have multiple scenes of reflection. We have a scene of reflection at the beginning of the movie where Padme says, okay, well, Padme says, I think Count Dooku is behind this attack, right?
Right.
And Mace Windu says, it's not in his character, my lady, to do something like that. Then Ki-Adi-Mundi says, he's a political idealist, not a murderer.
Not a murderer, yeah.
So the characters don't think it's in his character to do something like that. They think that he just respectfully left the Jedi Order. And then you see later in that movie how he tries to manipulate Obi-Wan into joining him. So you can very much see that it would be something in his character to do, and also for the people to believe him, that that would be something he would do, because he can manipulate people. So he manipulated them into leaving, right?
Right.
Or he manipulated them, thought he was good, and that he was just leaving for political reasons, but the entire time he had bad intentions, and they couldn't pick up on that, right? So these are things that he missed in the movie, right? So he thought that this was a mistake in the movie that that George Lucas overlooked, and it was just completely stupid and wrong, right? But he missed some details. Those are some important details that explain all of that. All of the issues he had just there could be explained by paying attention to, yes, they're onesie, twosie lines, but they are there, right? So once again, we're two different people who have two different opinions on this movie, and both believe in objectivity. He thinks that the movie's objectively bad. I think it's objectively, I would say, good, for the most part. There is issues with it, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, good. And
right.
because we had a different set of information, we came to a different set of conclusions.
Okay. So about the opening line about how Mace Windu says that he was once a Jedi, he wouldn't kill anybody, something along those lines. I used to bash on that line constantly, like, okay, so if you were once a good guy, now you're a bad guy, what, you're just not going to kill because you remember your past? I could counter that. So the whole, sorry, what was your point you're trying to get across with that? Like, the
point that I'm trying to get across with that is two people who believe in the objective viewpoint can have two different points of view about something. Okay?
See,
so just because two people believe in objectivity doesn't mean that two people can disagree about the quality of something, but it's through conversation with one another where you might miss something, I might miss something, I might think something, but you may have a better argument for it. We just lay the facts on the table, talk about it, and we figure out the true quality of it. That's the point of conversation in something like this.
I just feel like you're taking a really important part about what makes movies fun, and that is the emotion. Someone might not like Interstellar, they could relate to it a little bit later, and then on top of just the beauty that is Interstellar, once let's say that they have a daughter and they relate to it even more, and that makes it even better for them. Plus, it's a great movie just from a technical.
Right. You're right.
But so I just feel like you're taking something really special about movies out of it.
Okay.
Plus, objective literally means fact, and arguments and different point of views, that's not facts. Like the fact that you think it's good and he thinks it's bad, that's not a fact.
We both have different view. We don't know the truth, and we're on a search to find the truth.
I don't think you can find the truth in movies. Like
But you
except like
can
once
when
again,
it
except
comes
for
to
super extreme.
extremities. Okay,
Yes,
so you can on extremities, but you can't in the middle. That's very mixed. It's
because it's
harder.
art.
It's harder to find in the middle. Okay,
It is harder to find, yeah.
yeah, but it's there. Just because it's harder to find doesn't mean it isn't there, right?
But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it really does. Like I said, what makes a movie. I walk out of Tross saying it is good. I said that. That's what I said. I regret that. I don't regret it, but that's how I felt when walking out because I was just filled on the Star Wars side. I acknowledged their problems. I talked with my cousin. We're like, yeah, that was silly. That was silly. But look how cool this was. And there was enough stuff to make us say, yeah, that was good. And yes, you're saying that has to do with enjoyment. That's part of what a movie is. Someone could be bored out of their mind, and I would not blame them for saying that was a bad movie.
But once again, that's a situation where you and this person had a conversation about the quality and merits of this film, and you came to a conclusion, and your conclusion changed because you highlighted more issues with the movie. All right. So the thing that people miss when it comes to objectivity is it's by no means throwing out emotion. All right.
Okay.
So emotion.
Isn't that the definition of objectivity?
Let me
Without
finish.
emotion?
Let me. I'm
Okay,
getting
go
there.
for it.
So you could feel however you want about a movie. You can like whatever you want about a movie. You can dislike whatever you want about a movie. But just because you like something about it or dislike something about it doesn't mean that it's bad. So once again, that's your feelings on something is more subjective. I'm going to get back to the objective part, but let's just play with it. The subjective thing can give you great insight about the objective quality of the film. For example, have you seen Uncut Gems?
No, I have not.
Okay. Let me try to find a better... Would you prefer me not to spoil that movie?
I might want to watch it, so yeah, pick
Okay.
another one.
So, okay. Okay, Rogue One.
Rogue One.
Okay, so let's take Rogue One for example. When a lot of people, when they first saw that movie, right, and they come out of it, they were pissed at it because all the main characters died. All right?
Okay.
So that affected some people's reviews on it, but people were pissed about, oh, I can't believe that all these characters died, man. Like, come on, man. So that is your feeling about a movie that so there's an objective fact that all the characters died, and then there's your feeling about those characters dying. But then where the objective part comes in is ask yourself why you felt that happened. So why you felt that happened. So obviously, if you're upset that those characters died, you liked those characters, right? A part of you wanted to see more. Okay, so what in the movie made those characters relatable or likable? What mechanisms in the writing, in terms of script, writing, screenplay, that is in the movie, made those characters likable to some people, or at least attempts to make them likable? Whether you like or dislike the characters is a little separate, right? But there's no denying that there's at least somewhat of an attempt when you look at the script, watch the movie, the screenplay, that there's an attempt to get you to like these characters. So you may feel something about a movie, but when you ask yourself, why do I feel this way about a movie, that's where you can really, really, truly see how beautiful art can be through that objective lens.
Yeah, but I was one of the people who's like, okay, thank God they killed them off because they should have been in the original trilogy if they didn't. And I found all of the characters, when I watched it, exceptionally boring. I didn't even remember their names. So...
Right. So then, once again, ask yourself, why did I feel that way? And then you
because
can go...
I think that they're poorly written characters. If someone doesn't,
but
or if they have a different connection with them, good for them.
If you think that they're poorly written, that's fine, as long as you have citations for why they are. I can think that they are very well written. That's a different point of view. That's fine, but so I might be wrong. You might be right. Our feelings might be getting away of the true quality of how well the characters are actually written. But it's through conversations we can realize, okay, yeah, that was a good thing. Oh yeah, that was a bad thing. No, they should have done this there. Oh, that was bad. Right? Oh, well, that was really good. It's through the conversations where you can find the true objective value of stuff. So,
but you don't see how that's just conversation and opinion?
Well, yeah, it is conversation, having two different viewpoints, opinions, whatever you want to call it. But when you have those conversations, you get through the details, get through the junk, get through the feelings, and get to how it was actually written.
But then you could still come to the same conclusion that I think that Jin is a very bland, basic, boring character. That's just how I feel. If you want to say no, because I feel like she does it this, blah blah blah, ABC. Cool. I might still
Right.
feel like, just with my experiences with her, every time I watch it, maybe now I watch it a little bit differently, but I still feel she's
Right,
a
but
bland
some
character.
people have some people. So I
Hmm.
understand the argument for why, and I agree with it for the most part. But the reason why Jin is a boring character to a lot of audience members is because of how she is objectively written. Okay, whether or not that was the goal is different, but that's
We're
how
gonna
she
try to
was
say,
written. So
are we
if
now
you
gonna say Jar Jar Binks is an objectively good character because he's a Gungan?
that is a complete non sequitur. That's not at all
Is
what
it
I'm
though?
saying. That is not at all what
You're,
I'm
you're
saying.
saying she's objectively good, maybe not objectively, but you're saying she's good because that's how her character
No,
is.
no, no, no,
It's
no, no,
good
no,
that
no,
she's
no, 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 no,
bland
no, no,
because,
no, no,
okay, okay,
no, no, no. You're
okay,
misrepresenting what I'm saying. Okay,
okay.
I'm saying that you can make the claim that she is that she is a boring character
Mhm,
because of the script and how she is written, not because
mhm.
the author intended her to be boring or isn't boring, but because there are things in the script you can cite for her character being bland, right? But
Mm-hmm.
right, so you can, if you were to make the argument Jar Jar's good just because he's a Gungan, that would be a bad argument because there's other things that
Right.
go into making well-written cat again. There's other things that go into making well-written good
Yeah.
characters than just that. So different. It's very different. I understand how you kind of misinterpreted what I was saying, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
different.
Yeah, I'm just having a really hard time coming to. I would like I said once again, with extremes and with extreme comparisons, and also proven flaws. There can be a proven flaw in a movie, like that is a flaw. Um, but everything she's just saying just sounds like you just film debate. Like, I thought this was a good movie. I thought this was a bad movie. Here's my point. Here's my point.
You're
That's
right. It's
opinions.
it, it
Like,
is a
two
debate.
plus two is four is a fact.
That is a
This
fact.
is
You're right.
opinion.
And you can have a fact, and you can have
A fact
and
of a movie. Yes.
right, you can have a fact of a movie, and you can also have the factual evidence for the quality of a movie. But because we're
Here. Yeah.
subjective beings,
Mm-hmm.
the reason why we can't easily achieve objectivity when it comes to movies is because we are humans with feelings, and movies
Right.
are designed to provoke feelings, right?
Right.
So because of that, it does make it hard to achieve objectivity in a lot of cases. So that's why you have
Uh
people with a
huh.
lot of different viewpoints. So once again, when I was talking to you the first conversation, I'll
Yeah.
reiterate this point for audience members. But one of the points I brought up is, like, for example, in politics, we have all the facts we would ever need about anything at our fingertip, right?
Yes.
But people have different interpretations of those facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those interpretations aren't equally valid. So, for example, I don't want to give an example about politics because I don't want to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the point of
Right.
this. But you can interpret data to this extreme end, and you can interpret this data at this extreme end. But if the true answer objectively is in the middle, through conversations, those two people on the extremities could, if they're civil enough, could get down to the middle and get through their perceptions and their feelings and other things that get them to that point. That's one of the reasons why that we have different parties. It's because, and at least in the United States, it's because
Mm-hmm.
neither party is truly objective. They have
Right.
personal
Oh yeah.
beliefs and feelings that get in the way of raw facts and data. Okay, that's one of the reasons,
Uh-huh.
like, there is a divide because of different interpretations. But because there's different interpretations does not mean that one interpretation is just as equal as the other. It means that both are flawed, both might have one right thing, both might have something that's wrong, and each of their perceptions bring something different to the table, and through the conversation they're having, they can try and find the true objective value of data or different things. The same thing can be applied to scripts. There is a finite amount of information in a script. We know what happens in movies. We know why things happen in movies because we can look at the script,
Mm-hmm.
we can watch the movie, we can look at the screenplay, right? And also we can get external information such as the authorial intent, the direction style of the movie, things
Right.
going on
Right.
set, things going on in personal lives even, right?
Right.
Once you bring all that information to the table and through debates, you can find the true objective value of movies.
Ooh, that's a lot to unpack.
That is a lot to unpack,
That's
but I think that's probably one of my better spiels I've given.
okay. Let's see. So you're basically saying that through conversation, I'll put this all in. So you're basically saying through conversation, you can come to some objective conclusion about the quality of a movie, right?
Essentially, yes. So there are people who, for example, there's people who genuinely think that all the Star Wars prequels are a masterpiece. There's people out there who think that. Those people, I would say, are objectively wrong, right? That's my point.
Yeah,
but those people will simultaneously say that they are objectively right. But both of us could be wrong about that, right? And this objective value could be somewhere else. But how we find that objective value is through the conversation.
Maybe I just don't like the word objective, because that just means, that just means such just a blunt fact, and I feel like, because I do feel like the prequels could be a masterpiece for somebody because of how they feel. And I think if you take out how you're feeling, you're disagreeing. Like, you can no, it's not a masterpiece because A, B, and C. Look at my well-written arguments, and that's cool. I love well-written arguments, but I just still feel like taking out such a big important piece of what makes movies good. Someone could look at Qui-Gon and say he is a boring, bland character, and someone would be like, no, this is showing what a Jedi should be, and he's the last remaining. He's like, okay, but still, he puts me to sleep when he talks. So I don't.
And then who's
right? No one is right.
Well, then you could go into, for example, both points of view have validity to them. All right. So he's supposed to be stoic, and this is the way he's supposed to be.
I love Qui-Gon, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. He's supposed to be the stoic Jedi. He's supposed to be like the last true Jedi. You're right. Other people could be truly bored by his character and think that he's poor because of the way he's acted, the way he's directed. He's very stale in terms of his line delivery. But also, you can cite stuff such as he's charismatic because you see how he treats Anakin as well as his mom, Shmi, and other stuff like that. But one of the reasons that I think that people find Qui-Gon's character to be boring is because he fits the description of what he's supposed to be, but other people have the same stale delivery and acting that Qui-Gon is supposed to have, if that makes sense. So because everyone's kind of like that and they shouldn't be, that makes Qui-Gon kind of guilty by proxy and make him look worse than he actually is.
Yeah.
Right? So these are two, this is an example, once again, where there's two different points of view. The answer is kind of somewhere in the middle. There's validity to both sides. He is poor, kind of, I wouldn't say poorly acted, but is very stoic and monotone, and that is by intent, right? So that's another thing you have to keep in mind is authorial intent and stuff like that. Simultaneously, that character could seem boring to someone else because, and they may have a reason to it. But the issue isn't that, well, I found it boring. You have to ask, why did you find it boring? And from there, you can go to objective facts in the movie for why that character ended up making you feel a certain way.
Yes, and then coincidentally enough, Qui-Gon's a good one because you could say, I was bored by him because he's very stoic, he doesn't have much energy in his delivery, this is Liam Neeson and he's not fun to watch on screen. And then I could say the exact opposite. He's interesting to me because he is stoic. But what did I say? Because he's stoic, something else. And it's cool seeing such an iconic actor like Liam Neeson play this guardian of the Jedi Order.
Right, and so you have two different arguments, but there's two different viewpoints, and both.
But you believe somewhere is a fact, right?
But somewhere in there is the fact of how Qui-Gon's character actually is objectively.
Oh, right? How about this? Qui-Gon is objectively a stoic Jedi. Can we agree on that?
Right, we can both agree on that.
Okay, so now it's like Qui-Gon is objectively a stoic Qui-Gon is objectively a stoic Jedi. But then, would you believe that there can be an objective opinion on how you should feel about him? Because maybe that's what I'm getting confused about.
No. There's no right way to feel about something. That's all up to you. You can feel whatever you want about something.
Cool, and that kind of gets back to my point about how it is an objective fact about the battle on Titan. Thanos acted dumb. That's a fact. Right. At least I believe it is.
Right.
So we're getting somewhere. So yes, I do believe that there can be some objective. You can define Rey as a female nice Jedi. That's an objective fact.
Yeah, that is an objective fact that she is she is a woman Jedi with a very high, very good moral compass. Right. Objective fact.
There we go.
Because you can cite things for why that is the case in the movie.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with that. You can come to an opinion, or not an opinion. You can come to a conclusion on what the character is.
Right.
But then whether or not you like it, are we going to agree that that's subjective?
That is completely subjective.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
So you can like and dislike whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You
Okay.
can
Now
like the
stepping
last
away
Jedi.
from characters. Now stepping away from characters. Could you do the same thing with movies? Could you say that for Rise of Skywalker? Because here's how I'm gonna be a little bit more positive on the Rise of Skywalker, even though I don't like it. I'm gonna say it is a fun, entertaining conclusion to the Skywalker saga. Is that an objective fact?
A fun, entertaining conclusion to the Skywalker saga. The terms
Yes.
fun and entertaining aren't objective. Those are
Right.
subjective feelings. So
Mm-hmm.
to say that the movie is fun, or if you use the word is or was, that
Mm-hmm.
is a statement of objectivity. This is that. So for example,
Well, I thought you said that a character can be proven to be well written.
right.
Like,
So
this
this
character
character
is
is
well
well
written.
written. That is an objective claim.
An objective. Got it.
So
Okay.
so for example, this is a pen, right?
This
So
is a
there's
pen,
two
yeah.
there's two types of objective claims. Something that is and something that isn't. If you use is or was, most of the time that is an objective claim. This is a pen. That's objectively right. This
Right.
isn't an elephant. That's objectively wrong. This
Uh-huh.
is an elephant. Or no, this isn't
is
an
wrong.
elephant. That if I say this isn't an elephant, that's objectively wrong. If I say this is an elephant, that would be
objective.
objectively wrong. Right?
Yes. Yes.
So if I say this is fun, that is a statement of objectivity of what this is. But
Okay. I would agree with that. Yeah.
but when you say something like this is fun or this is entertaining, that is a feeling, therefore subjective.
Great, but then to come to a conclusion of how a movie is, if a movie is good, because some people, not saying that your side is robotic, but some people look at it more just like a movie is good if it checks off these boxes and if blah blah blah. Some people it's like I need to feel something, and that's when they get to the conclusion if a movie is good. So
Right.
that's why I don't think there can be objectivity because
Right. So here's okay. So
very
listen. I'm about to blow your freaking mind. Okay.
Okay, let's
So
do it.
so now what you're talking about are standards. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
people can have different standards,
Mhm.
right? Of making movies. Some movies. Okay. Some people's standards are flawed in logic, but those
Can I
standards.
interject just real quick before you make your point?
Right. Go ahead.
Like some people have different standards for different movies. Like walking into
As
Iron
they
Man, I'm
should.
not gonna have the same. Yeah,
As they
I'm
should.
not gonna expect Parasite from Iron Man.
As you should. Oh,
Cool,
right.
okay.
Okay. So for example, if you were to make the claim that a movie is if you were to set the standard that there is a direct correlation between the amount of dragons you have in your movie and how good the movie is, all right?
Okay.
That is while that standard is flawed in logic because the amount of dragons that you put in a movie is doesn't really relate to anything.
Doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
It is still an objective standard because you can objectively measure
An
how
objective
many
standard?
because
okay,
you can still measure how many dragons are in a movie.
Got
right?
it.
So, Game of Thrones has more dragons than Star Trek, so Game of Thrones is better. All right? Now, we could talk about the merits of that standard. All right? So
Okay.
now we get into an even broader conversation of how should we judge movies. And there is an infinite amount of standards that you can put on a movie.
Right.
true.
That's why
But
I
then-
think it's all objective.
Then
I mean, all subjective. Most.
Right, but
most
then
is
you have to
subjective, yeah.
but then you have to cut that down about whether this standard is about objectivity, about objectively making a movie better, or subjective taste. For example, going back to the dragons argument, more dragons the better. Okay, while that is a objective standard that you can apply to a movie, that is more of a subjective taste because that's more about, well, I just like dragons. That would probably be your argument for that, right? So you have to. There are different standards for each movie. Okay, so for
Right,
example,
right.
if I you can't judge a towel the same way you judge a blanket, right?
Okay.
And there's so if I were to look at a rag the same way I was to judge a blanket, that would be unfair to the rag, okay? Because
Okay.
the rag's job is to clean up small messes. It's supposed to be small, but a blanket's purpose is to make me feel warm and cover me and make me all comfy when I sleep. A rag would be the worst blanket of all time, right? So you're right when you should have different standards for different movies, but there are standards that you can apply universally to all movies, if that makes sense.
For the most part, yeah.
Right.
Or yeah.
Right. So you can still put the standards like having a tightly tightly written movie, having the characters be consistent and make sense and are well written, and then you can define what well written means. Okay, then we go into well written. What are the standards for being well written? Okay, well, if how well written a character is about just a linear correlation about how many flaws there are, right? The more flaws, the better. Well, there's more to it than just that for a well-written character, but that's still that's still something that you can measure how many flaws that a character has.
But also, comic relief should not be held up to the same standard of the antagonist or the protagonist.
Like a comic relief character, yeah.
Yeah.
Because once again, it's authorial intent is something that I've said, but it's something that's also important. Now, it's not the end-all be-all by any means, because sometimes the authorial intent can conflict with one another if there's two intents that conflict with one another. But if you understand that a character is supposed to be this, and the character achieves this, then it's a good character. That is a blanket.
Right.
You're judging it for being a blanket. This character is a towel. You're judging it for being a towel.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I think you're trying to look at it from once again you're obviously you're looking at it from a much more objective base. And I don't know. I just feel bad discrediting someone like no, this, like, if I say this is a good movie and they say no because of A, B, and C, I don't feel right saying you're objectively wrong. That's just still where I stand.
Yeah, so when you say, well, you're just objectively wrong, I mean, yeah, that kind of does have like a negative kind of like a-hole connotation when you say something. You can stay, for example, I say it on Twitter, like, I disagree with you, something like that. You can word it like that. And so it's kind of nicer.
Disagreement goes back to an opinion. And once again, I don't have the exact definition on me, but it has to do with complete devoid of emotion. And I just don't feel like you can achieve that with a movie.
Right. So
maybe I just don't like the word.
So here's the thing.
I like the word proven.
But that's still very similar to objective. And the reason why and I will give it to you, it is super hard to be objective about a movie. You could train yourself to do so. It is possible.
Can you?
Yeah, I'm trying to. You can train yourself.
Give me someone who has trained themselves. Maybe I'll know them.
I don't think I could give you an example off the top of my head of someone who's achieved complete objectivity.
Okay.
But I don't think anyone can achieve 100% objectivity. Right.
But I like you mentioned last time, I know of him now, Mahler, right?
Right.
Right. So if Mahler says Last Jedi's bad.
I wouldn't say that, but
okay.
If he, because once again he's human, so it's impossible for him to be objectively.
Yeah, exactly.
To be objective, right? But just because it's hard for us to do it doesn't mean that standard isn't there.
We can try all we want, but I just don't think you can ever fully get to pure objectivity.
Right, and I don't.
Plus, I feel like for the 1,000th time, I know I said this a lot, but once again, here I have it of a person or their judgment not influenced by personal feelings or opinions in considering and representing facts. So Last Jedi is good or bad. Somewhere in there is going to come down to how well you think Last Jedi is bad because, well, you can go back to Luke Skywalker and you can follow that character arc very objectively if you wanted to. But part of it has to do with how you feel about Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker, maybe, I assume he was a hero for you. He's a hero for most Star Wars fans. So when you saw him as, you call him Jake Skywalker,
I haven't, but people have, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Just clear because that's something offended by that. So yeah,
I've heard that one.
So right, just because objectivity exists and it's hard to achieve doesn't mean that it can be that we should just dismiss it. We should still try to achieve it, because what happens is when you get to the subjective viewpoint. So here's what I'll say about Mahler, for example. I think that his critique on The Last Jedi was very objective, very well made. His arguments were very well articulated, and it's very hard to combat some of his points, especially when you see those points in act. Because when you watch his podcast about The Last Jedi, or his podcast that he's had with debates about The Last Jedi, when you see the argumentation and emotion, it becomes harder to say that is an objectively good film. And there's a reason why most people in the objective crowd view The Last Jedi as an objectively bad film. There's a reason for that. Simultaneously, I don't think that he's right about The Force Awakens. He has a lot of critiques about The Force Awakens. His just mind-bogglingly long series, which I love me some long content, but he has an insanely long series about The Force Awakens, and I think that some of the arguments he makes and some of the things he says are wrong. So I don't think. So I think that he hasn't achieved objectivity when it comes to The Force Awakens, but I think he did a good
Yeah,
job
because
with
as
The
long
Last
as
Jedi.
someone can disagree, or just as long as someone, like, I watched 10 minutes of his Last Jedi video just because I was curious, and he goes into wanting to establish, like, how come we didn't see more laws? How is the First Order operating? Is it full, galactic control, or is it just kind of these planets? I'm sorry, I don't care. And is that wrong for me to say? Is that, like, I don't know.
It's not wrong.
I
It's
don't.
not wrong. So here's the issue. Let me explain the issue.
Yeah.
It's not wrong for you to care or don't care. You can feel whatever you want about the movie. People of the objective viewpoint don't. People of the objective viewpoint are like, feel whatever the hell you want to feel about that movie. We don't care. Like, but not in like a bad way, but like in a go for it type of way, right? Just feel whatever you want. But the issue with that, and this is something that I do agree with him when it comes to The Force Awakens. This is more of an issue with The Force Awakens than The Last Jedi, but it does bleed over to The Last Jedi. Is that the world building is really bad. So, for example, so in The Return of the Jedi, the Empire was defeated. We saw it crumble. Okay, its leaders gone. Its second Death Star gone. We saw its fleet get destroyed. And they had celebrations, and then even if you look at the newer versions, celebrations all over the galaxy of the of the Empire falling. Right. So then you go to The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and then all of a sudden they're probably stronger than the Empire was in the first place. It's like, okay, so what happened?
In the matter of years, right?
In the matter of 30 years, and so it raises a lot of questions. What happened? Who are the First Order? How did they get so powerful? Shouldn't the Republic have been doing something about this? Why doesn't the Republic have an operating military? Why is it called the Resistance when there's something to resist? Why is the Resistance this separate entity from the Republic? There's issues like, so that's kind of what he's referring to. So when it comes to the world building in The Force Awakens, it's really bad because J.J. Abrams wanted to have his piece, and Kathleen Kennedy, whoever you want to blame, wanted their pieces on the board, and they didn't earn the legwork to get their pieces on the board.
That's a good point. I like that.
And I think a lot of that can be attributed actually to Star Wars fans because people complained so much about the politics in the prequels.
yes.
So they didn't even want to touch it. They were just like, okay, this is how it is. Just deal with it. Right? So that's an issue, and I think that's on us. Or maybe not on me, but because I didn't really
on
care.
Star Wars fans as a whole.
Like as a whole, that's on us because we complained so much about it. So that's kind of what he's trying to refer to. That's more of an issue with The Force Awakens, but it does bleed over into The Last Jedi because we don't know how they operate or how they've gotten so big or how they really work.
Yeah, see, like that's a fair point. But then once again, like I said at the beginning, if we're gonna seriously like this because Mahler said so, now Force Awakens is objectively bad. I just can't do that because that's a good point. I'm interested in that.
Right.
But for me, I'm not going to move the Force Awakens any lower on my placement now.
Right. So I'm not saying by any means Mahler is the end all be all of objectivity.
Yeah. I'm just
right. I watch his content because I like the discussion. He has swayed me a little bit on The Force Awakens. He has shown me some of the issues. But I do disagree with him on some of, for example, one of the key things I disagree with him is Han Solo in The Force Awakens. I think Han Solo was really freaking good in The Force Awakens, at least by concept. I think that by execution could have been a lot better. But the concept of Han in The Force Awakens is really good. He completely disagrees with that. He thinks that it completely undoes all of his character development, which to an extent it does, but it isn't done for no reason, and the, explanation given is it needed to be fleshed out more, for sure, but does kind of make sense with his character.
So you're disagreeing with what you said is an objective claim? I know you said you can't do that, but I feel like you can't disagree that 2 + 2 is 4. So maybe once again, for like the third time, maybe I just don't like the word because I see what you're trying to say. There can be flaws in a movie that we can prove. There can be actual problems, but when it comes to like objective, the sky is blue. That's objective. 2 + 2 is 4. That's objective.
Right.
Han Solo wasn't good in The Force Awakens. That's not objective. And so far, you've not swayed me in that way.
So the issue then arises is I'm sure if I and Mahler were to have a conversation, I doubt it will ever happen. But if we were to have a conversation about that, and that would be really cool. If we were to have a conversation about that, I'm sure we could find a middle ground. I could sway him one way, he could sway me one way, and somewhere in the middle, maybe the answer's in the middle, right? Or maybe I'm just completely wrong, and maybe he's just completely wrong. Maybe there's just some information that I'm missing. Maybe there's some information that he's missing, right? Not two viewpoints aren't equally valid,
Right.
right? Because
Wait, say that again. Say that again.
two viewpoints aren't equally valid.
They aren't.
Are not.
They are not. So one viewpoint is better.
Well, the one that's factual is naturally better.
Yeah, yeah. Now I'm kind of just going. I don't know. I still can't feel like there can be a factual take on Han Solo was good in The Force Awakens. I just don't feel like there can ever reach a factual conclusion with that.
Yeah, it will be. You could. It would be really hard, but it's possible. Once again,
Really
we're
hard.
subjective. We're subjective beings. There's a lot of good arguments for each side, and I think the answer is really in the middle, right? And that's kind of where my take, I think, kind of lays, because I think that the concept was good, but it was executed poorly. That's kind of my take.
But also, the reason you're even spending the time to debate it is because you like the character of Han Solo, and that has to.
Well, I wouldn't even necessarily say. I mean, okay, I like Han, but he was never like my favorite by any means. He was just a character I liked.
And someone who likes him more can find that so offensive that I thought he was the hero. He's just abandoning his wife and his son.
Right, and so this is a case.
Vader.
And this is a case where if let's just say that's, for example, my dad's like that. He just hates what he hates the fact that they killed off Han Solo in The Force Awakens. I think it was. Right. I think that conceptually was good, and it could have been done a lot better. If you want me to explain why I could, but. Right, but if someone were to just say, no, everything they did with Han was wrong, it was just completely awful, I wanted him to be this way. Okay, well, it doesn't matter what you want. It's about what is actually there and how they executed it. So it is hard to reach objectivity. It is. Yeah. Can it be done? Maybe someone out there has a truly objective opinion by chance or because they've really spent hours upon hours of research on a specific topic, and they just have it down to a T. They just know everything about the topic, and they just got it, right? But it is hard. Right. But just because it's hard doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. Because my take of why objectivity matters is because saying that everything is subjective hurts. I think that hurts Hollywood and hurts objectively good scripts. Because if we could just say, well, everything's up to interpretation, one viewpoint's just as good as the other, then we're just going to get, more lifeless crap that we've been getting more recently out of Hollywood, right? Because a lot of it is when you look at, 70s, 80s, 90s, we got some of the best movies ever made in that era. And then even before that, 40s, 50s, 60s, we got some really good movies like Citizen Kane, Seven Samurai, other stuff like that. But as time goes on, it's gotten worse.
The early 2000s hasn't been the best,
Right. Because Hollywood has realized that they don't need to pay Spielberg every time to make a movie, right? Also because they can crank out more movies, so naturally there will be some will be not as good as others, but they don't need Spielberg or Scorsese every time they make a movie. Versus before they kind of did. They needed someone of that caliber to sell because only like 3 movies came out a year. So So there's depth to it, but there's a reason why movies nowadays are not written as good. It's because we have just accepted that, well, it's all up to interpretation. When really you can quantifiably prove something being better than another.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I don't think it's totally just, I got into this conversation literally a month ago, so I never once thought that Hollywood is seriously thinking that. And now that I'm not fully on board with that, but yeah, I do feel like quality has gone down for many different reasons. I think just our standards have lowered when it comes to what we accept. Right. Like, we love popcorn fun, but that's just me. That's what I think. Right. But anyways, we have been recording.
Can I propose you one middle ground solution? I think that you can take this middle ground solution. I think you can. Okay. So I think that I've shown you that you can make objective claims about films and to some degree their quality. Yes?
Yes.
Right. It becomes harder once you get out of the 3 to 1 and 7 to 10 range and get in towards that middle, right?
Yes.
Do you think that it's at least possible to... Do you think that objectivity still exists in that range? But it's hard to achieve what exists.
My go-to is Iron Man 3 for some reason, because I really liked it the last time I watched it. No, I don't think you can truly achieve objectivity if Iron Man 3 is good or bad.
Okay, but whether or not you can achieve it or not, do you think that there's an objective answer to the quality of the film?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, in extreme comparisons, like my dad, it took a long time for my dad to like the MCU because it's like, this is not real cinema, all that. He's like, oh, okay, they're kind of fun. For him, they're just fun, but for me, there's something more.
Right. Okay, so let me propose you a middle ground solution.
Okay.
So there's objective truth. So this is gonna get really confusing, but I promise you, it's gonna make sense once I finish
Yeah,
it.
no, I want to hear
Okay.
it. Okay.
So there's something that's objectively true. 1 + 1 is 2. That's objectively true.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have something that is subjectively true. Okay, so that is something that isn't true, but it does the world or people better to believe it is true.
Okay.
So prime example, the gun is always loaded. Have you ever like handled a firearm in any capacity?
A BB gun, but yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
So if you were sitting in a room with a bunch of people who were trained, weapon specialists, they always treat like the gun is. They always act like the gun is loaded, even if there is not a bullet in the mile, in the mile radius of it, because they know that if there was a mistake to happen, someone could die. So you never. So if there was just a circle of people and they're handing the gun to one person to the next, they would look at it, they would, pull the mag back to make sure there's no magazine in it, no bullet in the chamber, not point it at anyone, hand it to the next person. They'd be frantically doing that, even though that they know for a fact the gun isn't loaded, and they can point it at you, pull the trigger, and nothing would happen. Subjectively, they have to treat that as a subjective truth, that the gun is loaded for the purpose of safety. So would you at least concede that the idea of objectivity in film as at the very least subjectively true? Because, even if, let's say that there is no objectivity and it's just out the window, does it do us better as a society or as film critics to say that there is a quality in film that can be judged and try to judge it? Because...
Does it do us better as a society to acknowledge that there could possibly be objectivity, right?
I got mentioned by someone. So, would you say that at the very least it is subjectively true, and that we should at the very least think it's subjectively true that objectivity exists in film? Very least.
Okay, I see what you mean by the gun example, but I'm having a hard time getting it over to movies. So can we agree? Can I agree?
Okay,
that
so
the idea of objectivity makes film discussion better?
Could you concede that?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Because I'm not going to waste my time talking to anybody who genuinely believes High School Musical is better than Schindler's List. I haven't seen either, but I know one is better. But so I could just back out of it. But but also opposite. If someone literally is going to come out with me, I'm not saying you did. I'm saying hypothetical somebody. If someone's going to come at me saying Iron Man 2 is objectively bad, I'm not going to waste my time in that debate. Right. I like this debate because we're arguing the ideas, but I'm not going to waste my time with the debate saying Last Jedi is objectively trash. You can like it all you want to, but it's trash, by the way. So to some extent, I don't think it can make it better, but I do think that we shouldn't just be mindless. Oh, it's all up to interpretation. I do feel like we should hold it to some quality. So, middle.
So you think that we should try to hold it of some quality, and at the very least, we should, if objectivity doesn't exist, we should at least pretend it does for the sake.
Try to make it as best as possible. Yeah.
Right. So would you concede
make your script the best as possible? Act your best. Do your best.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly what I'm conceding on, but hopefully what I said makes somewhat sense.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think that's a good middle ground.
I think that's a great middle ground. And there you have it. That is our conversation/debate. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you watched it all the way through, I'm not sure how much I edit, but if you watch it all the way through, thank you. That is awesome. Clearly you care about this conversation, and please write us an essay. I'm sure Ethan will look at the replies too. Tell us what you think. Maybe I'll put a poll. Have fun with this conversation because this stuff is interesting. Once again, hope you guys enjoy. All of Ethan's socials will be in the description. I will see you in the next video. Or video.